Hey guys, it's Eric from foundersbeta.com. I'm so delighted to have the CEO of Shurix.com, Canada's leading insurance marketplace. Did I get that right?
That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining, Lance. So let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about Surex and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Shurix started about 8 years ago. And, it really started out of necessity. I had bought in a brick and mortar office, a traditional delivery office. And, at the same, I leveraged everything to buy that office. And at the same time, the Bank Act review was going on, and there was a bank to the left and a bank to the right. And I thought, man, I'm going to be sunk if the banks get into insurance, because my office was just in a small town of 2,500 people.
Right.
And so I was trying to expand my reach and just had this idea for online insurance and changing the way distribution had typically been done in Canada for insurance. And convinced my business partner, my current business partner, Matt Alston, to sell a business he was building in the US and to come up and help bring this vision to life. And today, we've built our business completely organically without ever doing any acquisitions. We went from 0 policies to over 140 million under management in just 8 years.
Wow.
We went from Matt as one employee in the basement of my brick and mortar office. And you have to picture this, because this basement's like 6 feet high, 500 square feet, cobwebs everywhere.
Right.
And we set up a Costco table and the old server. And that's where we started, to today, where we've got 3 locations, 1 in Alberta, 2 in Ontario, and about 160 employees. So
wow. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So what was that conversation, with your partner? Like, how did you convince him? Did you just say, hey, let's just start this up, I see a need for it? Or it's hard to convince people, right, to join on a venture?
You know what? Honestly, to this day, I don't know why he ever bought into that crazy dream of coming up. But he was he's from the same town that I was from, and he was going to the States, building a business, and then coming home and traveling back and forth. And I think he just saw the opportunity that insurance had been very stagnant for a lot of years, and that there was some real opportunity. And he's a smart guy. He saw the opportunity and was willing to take a jump at it.
Right. And what was it like in the early days? Like, of course, you got things off the ground, but what were some of the challenges you overcome? Because, like you said, this maybe a bit of stagnant, right? Not much of innovation, right, in the space.
Yeah, the early days were actually quite tough for Surex, because we were doing distribution different than it had ever been done before. And so we had regulators that didn't like it, and we had to fight some battles with government in order to even get going. Then as part of being an insurance brokerage, you have to prove that you have errors and emissions insurance.
Right.
And our errors and emissions carrier didn't want to cover us because they didn't know anything about online insurance and the risks. And so we had to fight that battle. And, I think any startup, I love the definition of an entrepreneur, that they're nothing more than a professional problem solver.
Right.
And, that's really all we did in those early years, is one roadblock after another. That most people probably would have said, well, I guess it doesn't work. We just pushed and found solutions, and even today, 8 years later, the battles are the same. It's just pushing through them continually.
Right. Yeah, because for entrepreneurs, we constantly have to solve problems on a daily basis, right? So so it's exciting to see how how all this come together. So let's talk about your the insurance industry today. Like, what's exciting?
It is a super exciting time to be in insurance, actually, because the insurance space has been, I think it's one of the last industries to really be affected by technology and to start adapting it. So the change in our industry is happening at a rapid pace now.
Right.
Um, it's I think it's easier for the brokers in this space to innovate and move. It's a
Right.
little harder for the insurance companies because
Mhm.
they're an awful big wheel, and
Right.
sometimes it's harder for them to catch the innovation. I don't think catch it, but more to implement the innovation is harder for them.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, we've got some great company partners that are innovating and working with us one on one, and they see the opportunity to change the industry, and
Right.
I think it's an exciting time.
Right, right. So talk about like the current site. How does it help like clients find the right insurance? Because I read in your profile, there's nothing worse than not having insurance and the wrong one too, right? So
Yeah, and you know what? That's a big risk in online insurance, and I'll cover that. But I think what we do different is really in the past. Um, Brokers typically will have a few markets. Like some of the big companies will have multiple markets, but
right,
a lot of them will have two, three markets. So if you wanted as a consumer to really go check your insurance, it was a lot of work because
right,
you'd have to go from broker to broker, market to market to find it. Surex, we've been able to get the best insurance carriers, the top insurance carriers to Canada to
hmm,
participate in our platform. And now consumers can go in
hmm,
and they can really shop the market in one place and
right,
find where they can find the right policy at the right price.
hmm,
Um,
right,
what I think is unique about Surex is we're not strictly a digital play. We understand that for guys like you and I that have had insurance for a while and we
right,
might know what we want, it works great. But there's a lot of people that still don't understand the industry,
right,
and
right,
and we provide kind of a hybrid approach where
right,
there's the technology if you want it, but we still have some of the best licensed insurance brokers in
hmm,
Canada,
nice,
that are there to answer questions and to help guide people to make sure they're making the right decision.
right.
Because we don't want first time insurance people going on there and just buying a policy and then finding out it's not what they want it to be,
Right,
right?
right, right. That's a big problem, right? So, yeah. So talk about given your growth and over the past 8 years, of course, as entrepreneurs, you're always building your team. What kind of traits do you look for in your new hires?
Yeah, because we are different in how we deliver insurance, and we've been gaining so much traction. It's been really great for us that we haven't had to recruit that hard because
Right,
people are seeing what we're doing and they
right.
want to be a part of changing the industry. And
Mhm.
we have some really competitive remuneration in the industry, so it's been good. But the stuff I really look forward to is sort of like-minded people that can think outside of the box.
Mhm.
We don't hire, at least in our senior management team right now,
Mhm.
I don't think any of them have a long history of insurance. Some of them have moved up through the ranks and they started as brokers in our
Mhm.
system. But really, what we're looking for is people that can think outside of the box. Just because we've always done something one way doesn't mean that's the way we should continue doing it.
Mhm.
Consumer expectations are changing so fast now, and I think it's a business owner's responsibility to keep up with that and to keep ahead of it.
Right.
And we need people that can think outside the box and not get mired down in, well, this is the way it's always been done, so this is the way we should do it.
Right, right. Well, honestly, that's so exciting, especially given in your space, right? Not a lot of people might think this would be like you would actually look for someone who's maybe innovative, right? So, I think this is actually exciting. So, yeah, let's talk about the for people that want to break into the insurance industry. Obviously, you mentioned maybe some people in your team didn't have the background, but like, well, what if somebody completely new? I want to get in. What are some tips you have to be able to break in?
I think that it's really funny in hiring. I've seen people hired over the past, and my business partner Matt actually handles a lot of the hiring, and we've got a great HR guy as well, also named Matt, that helps. But,
Mhm.
sometimes I've seen people they've hired and I've looked and I've thought, what the heck are they doing?
Right.
Because, I've always thought sales, you've got to be an outgoing and you've got to be really great with people. And
Right.
I think in a lot of cases that is the case.
Mhm.
But in Surex, what we've seen is really it comes down to work ethic. It's the
Right.
people that are willing to put the time in, willing to put the grind. And, not all of them are outgoing, traditionally great salespeople
Right.
as we would have in the
Imagine.
past deemed a successful salesperson.
Mhm.
So I think it's realizing that, look, if you're going to break into the industry, it's going to be hard work. It's going to take a lot of effort.
Right.
It's a regulated industry. So, of
Mhm.
course, you've got to go out and you've got to get your license. And, that is by province, they've got different regulations on what's required to get licensed.
Mhm.
But once you're licensed, the great thing about Surex is we're so process driven because there's so much technology in our industry
Right. Right.
that it really provides a great learning environment for people
Mhm.
to get started, and they don't have to worry about keeping everything stored in their head and then making a mistake because, oh, I forgot to ask this or I forgot to ask that. At
Right.
Surex, it's all driven in the technology.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's a great environment for good people to come in and learn and grow as well.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's change gears. Let's talk about remote. Everything going remote with everything what's going on. How do you how do you keep up with the team going remote, and any tips you might have there?
Yeah, I mean, for us, going remote was fairly easy because
Hmm.
we have, as I mentioned, we have office in Alberta, one in Burlington, and one in Cambridge. And but we had a lot of workers that were already working remote.
Right. Right.
So for us to go remote, and being that it's all digital anyways, it was we were doing social distancing before it was cool.
Oh,
So,
right. 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 That makes sense.
but the one thing that I think is difficult in these remote times
Right.
is staying connected, and
Right.
that's something our HR team has worked really hard with, is having the right tools for remote people to still be able to feel part of a team, to
Hmm.
connect, to be surrounded from people that can help them and teach them. And I would say that's the hardest part of any remote
Right.
is the HR and the social piece of keeping that culture intact and not letting
Right.
it disintegrate because everybody's in their own space now.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, because I think with with being digitally, you feel kind of isolated, right? But as a team, to keep up that energy, motivation, I think remotely is definitely a challenge. So yeah, that's great. How about what's the next exciting development with Shurix? Anything you're excited about? You wake up tomorrow, you're like, we're excited about this market, or any kind of development you might be able to share?
Well, I'll give you and your listeners a sneak peek that isn't even out yet. So,
Okay. Are you sure you can share?
well, we'll find out for sure. I'll be getting mad at myself if I do. So, what one of the really cool things that I think Surex is doing that's really going to change our industry is insurance premium monitoring.
Right.
So when you sign up with Shurix, and potentially we're looking at expanding this even to people if they don't have their policy with Shurix, they can put it on our platform, and we're going to be able to monitor premiums for them.
Right.
So that, as you know, because in insurance, it's really interesting. You can have a great price one year,
Mhm.
but if that company has a really bad experience nationally or globally,
Right.
that company's rates go up in comparison to another insurance company,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, because of the amount of volume Surex is doing now, we've got great AI technology that we can look at all the new people buying policies,
Mhm.
compare it to existing people,
Right.
and say, hey, you know what, there's opportunity, now would be a good time to look. And I really think that's going to be a fantastic tool for the consumer that,
Right,
that
right,
hasn't existed in the marketplace. And, you know, really, the slogan I like to say is once they find Surex, they should never have to look for another broker again, because
right,
we're literally doing the job of being a broker, which is watching prices and telling them when it's
wow,
time to move. And I don't
right.
think we've done a great job of that in the industry in the past.
Right, right. Well, I think this is a game changer, right? Because you're putting the power right back to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
So great. Yeah. So next question is, what's the best advice do you have for our audience? Could be anything. Building a company, building your team, startups, anything.
You know, I think to me that the best advice that I could ever give anyone, and what I tell my kids all the time as well, is, you know, it takes no effort to be average, but to be great takes determination, hard work, and perseverance. And, you know, average is the default. And I think so many people stop because of they don't realize that the success is just around the corner. If you put in
Right,
just a little more time, stay persistent, put the work in, you know, great things can happen from that. And I think as society, we settle too much, you know, and we just settle for average, and we
true.
compare to the people around us and say, I'm good enough. But you know what? There's so many amazing people in the world with amazing ideas that they've just got to be persistent and put that work in, and break out of being average.
Right, right. Oh, for sure. And then I think building a company teaches you all that, right? You gotta persist and push through because average won't cut it. Of course, especially in any industry too, because there's always competitors, there's always different factors. But yeah, that's a great pointer for our audience. Last questions for our audience that want to learn more about Shurix. Where can they go?
Great. Well, we'd love to see you for sure. And you can reach us at www.surex.com,
Mhm.
Surex.com. And on there, you know, if you're looking for insurance, it's there. If you want to know more about employment opportunities and things, there's links on there as well for that. And we're always looking for great people, whether they're licensed or not. So would love to hear from your followers and your audience.
Awesome. Well, Lance, thank you so much for sharing the story with our audience. And I'm excited to share this. And thank you so much again for taking the time to come out today.
Hey, well, thank you for the opportunity. There's so many great businesses in out there that to be chosen as one to be interviewed by you guys is a true pleasure, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again.